On behalf of Utah Valley University and the Office for Global Engagement, we welcome you to the 4th Diplomatic Conference on International Trade Relations. My name is Baldomero Lago. I'm the Chief International Officer here at Utah Valley University, and I'm also the Honorary Consul of Spain in the state of Utah. And I have a great honor to welcome you to this conference. We recognize the presence of the Governor of the great state of Utah, Mr. Spencer Cox. Thank you very much, Governor, for joining us. I just want you to know, folks, that this is his 4th conference that he has attended. So what a great honor and privilege. Thank you for your support. We also like to recognize, sitting on the stand, Dr. Wayne Vaught, Provost and Senior Academic President here at Utah Valley University. Also Mr. Franz Kolb, Director of Diplomacy and Protocol in the state of Utah and Honorary Consul of Austria. Mr. Felipe Capo Rego, United Nations Communication Officer. He is based in New York City. Madame Shelby Dyack, she is the Utah Export Assistance Center Director of the U.S. Commercial Services. Mr. Aaron Starks, he is the CRO and Managing Director of the Global Business Services at the World Trade Center of Utah. And Mr. James Burton, President of the Utah Consular Corps and Honorary Consul of Germany. Today, we are honored to have the presence of career diplomats and government representatives. I will introduce them by their nation's alphabetical order. I would ask each representative to stand or wave when their country and name are stated. Please hold the applause until all diplomats have been properly introduced. Ladies and gentlemen, representing the Republic of Armenia, the Consul of Armenia in Los Angeles, the Honorable Varadz Palovini. Representing Canada, the Consul General of Canada in Denver, the Honorable Mr. Sylvian Fabi. Representing Costa Rica, the Consul General of Costa Rica in Los Angeles, the Honorable Madame Mabel Segura. Representing Georgia, the Consul General of Georgia in San Francisco, the Honorable Ivan Britze, and the Consul of Georgia in San Francisco, the Honorable David Kurtanidze. Representing Hungary, the Trade Commissioner of Hungary, the Honorable Madame Eva Drogi. Representing the Republic of Indonesia, the Consul General of Indonesia in Los Angeles, the Honorable Ferry Javar. Representing the Republic of Italy, the Consul of Italy in Los Angeles, the Honorable Fabio Massi Ballerini. Representing Japan, the Consul General in Japan in Denver, Honorable Yoichi Makami, and the Consul of Japan in Denver, the Honorable Junya Inouye. Representing the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, the Consul General of Luxembourg in San Francisco, the Honorable Daniel da Cruz. Representing Malaysia, the Consul General of Malaysia in Los Angeles, the Honorable Anil Faritza Adnan. Representing the United Mexican States, the Head of Economic Affairs in the Embassy of Mexico in Washington, D.C., the Honorable Francisco Xavier Tovar Vilches. Also the Consul General of Mexico in Salt Lake City, the Honorable Mr. Jose Borjon. Representing Mongolia, the Vice Consul General of Mongolia in San Francisco, the Honorable Bayartsengel Damdin, and the Consul of Mongolia in San Francisco, the Honorable Bayarmangani Punsak. Representing the Republic of Peru, the Consul General of Peru in Denver, the Honorable Mr. Roland Denegri. Representing the Republic of the Philippines, the Consul General of the Philippines in San Francisco, the Honorable Neil Ferrer, and the Consul of the Philippines, the Honorable Vanessa Bagoyona. Representing the Republic of Portugal, the Consul General of Portugal in San Francisco, the Honorable Pedro Pinto. Representing Romania, the Consul General of Romania in Los Angeles, the Honorable Cosmin Dumitrescu, and the Consul of Romania in Los Angeles, the Honorable Madame Mirela Dumitrescu. Representing the Kingdom of Spain, the Honorable Ambassador Juan Carlos Sanchez Alonso, Consul General of Spain in Los Angeles. Representing Sri Lanka, the Consul General of Sri Lanka in Los Angeles, the Honorable Dr. Lalit Chandradasa. Representing Taiwan, the Director General of Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in San Francisco, Mr. Scott Lai, and also his first secretary, Mr. Shang Lin. Representing the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the Trade Commissioner, Mr. William Pauls. And finally, representing the Oriental Republic of Uruguay, the Trade Commissioner, Madame Fiorella Prado. Let's welcome all these diplomats with a round of applause. My most sincere apologies. I've left 2 additional countries. I guess I was way sleepy in the morning. So we also have, okay. So we have also the Consul General of Greece from San Francisco, Mr. Sarkitis Ouvernos. Thank you. Thank you. Also the Consul General of Israel, Dr. Hillel Newman. Thank you very much. And also his Consul of Israel too in Croatia, Rene Pei. I'm sorry. This is great. Appreciate you. My apologies to the 3 of you. I guess it was too early in the morning typing all this. So we also welcome to this conference honorary consuls, government leaders, academicians, students, ecclesiastical representatives, community, and business leaders. At this time, I want to express my gratitude for all of those who have supported this initiative and promoted this event. The format of the conference is outlined in the printed program. After this plenary session at 10:30, we will have a breakout session. The breakout sessions will be moderated by the following individuals. If you're here, please stand. The Honorable David Utrilla, CEO of U.S. Translations and Honorary Consul of Peru. David. Also, Mr. Stephen Lefebvre, if Stephen is in the neighborhood. He's the Chief of Staff and Director of Strategic and Foreign Affairs at the World Trade Center, Utah. Mr. Jonathan Wood, Managing Director of the Whitmer Global Business Center at Brigham Young University. And Dr. Jacob Sabrowski, Associate Dean of the UVU Woodbury School of Business. Once the breakout sessions conclude, at noon, we will return to this space for a network session with all the diplomats. Each nation will have a table where the audience will have the opportunity to interact on a one-on-one basis. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the last time we met at this conference was in November of 2019, and much has taken place since that day. The world has been affected by a pandemic. Nations around the world have had to limit their interactions, even within their own neighborhoods. We had to learn to survive under very challenging circumstances. The impact has been overwhelming in all industries, agencies, schools, even at home. National borders had to be closed. Travel was suspended. Trade operations have been minimized, impacting economies around the world. We became a virtual society. The pandemic has had a great challenge, but researchers working around the clock day and night have been able to find a mechanism that made a difference. And human knowledge has found a plausible solution. As we organized this conference a year ago, we centered the theme for the conference on best practices learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. Nevertheless, we all have witnessed what is currently happening in Ukraine, a tragedy which, unlike the pandemic, might have been avoided. Yet, here we are, in a political conflict where lessons from the past seem to echo loudly and ask, have we learned nothing? With this unfolding in Europe, we have chosen to include the Russian assault on Ukraine as another topic of discussion today. Certainly, we have a lot of ground to cover. Is Mr. Jonathan Freeman among us today? Would you please stand, Mr. Freeman? Let me introduce you to a dear friend, the Honorary Consul of Ukraine in the state of Utah. Mr. Freeman, our thoughts and prayers are with you and those you represent. including our dear Lina Varionova, who is working with her office, and the many Ukrainian students here on campus. Long live Ukraine, and may God bless the Ukrainian people everywhere. Today's plenary session will be as follows. First, we will hear from Dr. Wayne Vaught, Provost and Senior Academic Vice President at Utah Valley University. After his remarks, Mr. Franz Kolb, Director of Diplomacy and Protocol of the State, will present a few remarks and introduce our Governor of the great state of Utah, the Honorable Governor Spencer Cox. Following his remarks, we will hear from Mr. Felipe Queipo, United Nations Communication Officer. He will be followed by Madame Shelby Dyke, Utah Export Assistance Center Director of the U.S. Commercial Services. Continuing her remarks, Mr. Aaron Starks is the CRO and Managing Director of Global Businesses Service at the World Trade Center of Utah. And last, we will hear from President James Burton of the Utah Consular Corps. Now it is my great honor and privilege to introduce my friend, Dr. Wayne Vaught, Provost and Senior Academic Vice President at Utah Valley University.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to what I am sure is going to be an exciting opportunity for us to have a lot of dialogue, a lot of interchange, and take away a lot of ideas that will hopefully be implemented in the various areas around the world to really help us grow and help us address a lot of the world challenges that we're facing, but certainly enhance our economic opportunities and business opportunities around the world. President Jimenez could not be here. She is traveling, and so sends her regards and welcome to Utah Valley University. And on behalf of her and on behalf of the faculty, the staff, the students, the entire UVU community, I would like to welcome all the dignitaries who have already been recognized this morning, and certainly Governor Cox. Thank you for your time and your dedication and devotion to this opportunity. Utah, as you may or may not know, is one of the thriving, if not the most thriving, economic states in the country. And we have had great leadership that has had over the many years and continues to put us in the driver's seat in that regard. Utah Valley University sees ourselves as playing a substantial and important role in the economic development, certainly of the state. 42,000 students, approximately 42,000 students are served each year by this university. We are an open enrollment, dual mission institution, which means that we accept students from a wide variety of preparation backgrounds, providing opportunities from certificates to associate degrees, all the way to bachelor's and some master's degree programs. So we are directly aligned and work to be aligned certainly with the economic community, with our growing tech workforce in Utah Valley, with engineering, healthcare, a lot of the major growth industries. Utah Valley is a major player in working to prepare our community and to prepare our students to be able to work in that workforce. As has already been acknowledged as well, and one of the important reasons for a conference like this is that there's a lot of political debate, even in the news today, as to what the U.S. response should be to the challenges in the Ukraine, with some arguing that we should not really pay as much attention to the global scene. But as you've noticed with the pandemic, with the conflict in the Ukraine, with the wars, with the many challenges that we face, we are a global community, and we have to recognize that viruses don't recognize the boundaries of countries, of states. The economy does not recognize these institutional state boundaries. And so we need to be prepared. We need to recognize the role, the importance that we all play, and how we can effectively manage the relationships between the countries. And so I think that this forum is going to give us an opportunity to think certainly more deeply about these ideas, and hopefully you'll be carrying away some really influential notions and bringing those to bear with the conference here today for others. So it's a very important conference, and also being at a university, one of the things that we want to do is give our students an opportunity to be involved, to be engaged, and to recognize the challenges that we face, not just in our own communities, but in our global communities, and be better prepared as graduates to address those challenging issues. So again, on behalf of the university, I would just like to take a moment to thank you for being here. I hope this does turn out to be a very productive, very rewarding conference for you. And with that, I'll turn it back to Aldemiro.
Governor Cox, Provost Ward, Excellencies, members of the Consular Corps of Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, and Utah, all other government representatives, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure today to address this distinguished audience and discuss with you the state of Utah, the state of diplomacy and its importance to international relations in Utah. So my name is Franz Kolb. It has been my distinct pleasure and honor to serve the people of Utah for almost 30 years as lead diplomat. During my time, I have helped over 3,000 Utah companies in their exporting efforts. I have been involved in hosting over 1,500 diplomats in my career and business delegation from all over the world, and have taught over 3,000 students international business, international relations, and diplomacy. It has also been an honor to help multiple companies from overseas to make Utah their US headquarters or subsidiaries. In all the years, I have never had one dignitary, that a diplomat or business owner who has regretted visiting or locating to Utah, because this is truly a unique state focused on forging enduring relationships. For some of you, this is the first visit to Utah. I remember when I first came to this great state. I came here in 1978 from my homeland of Austria. I grew up in a small mining town called Riedersbach near the city of Salzburg. This newly built community was a small town of 800 people consisting of miners and refugees. I grew up in an environment where there were people from many different cultures. It instilled in me the love for people from all over the world and taught me that through learning about cultures, I could understand my own culture better. I learned to respect people from other cultures. When I came here over 40 years ago, I quickly learned that Utahns are very internationally minded. Many have lived overseas as business leaders or volunteers for their churches and speak a variety of languages, which really impressed me. I also learned that Utah is a state of immigrants. The first immigrants to Utah's native lands were religious refugees who arrived here in 1847 and brought the values of hard work, inventiveness, and collaboration. Today, their descendants treasure these values and have a tradition of welcoming people with open arms. So, for example, over 15,000 refugees from former Yugoslavia live here. Over 700 refugees from Afghanistan and many other countries. And we have almost over 400,000 Latinos from various countries here. Utah cherishes the diverse perspective and contributions of all people and work diligently in paid and volunteer capacities to ensure the success of those coming to a new home. For these and more reasons, Utah is the #1 volunteer state in the United States. Utahns like to give back. Because of the love for international cultures in Utah, the executive branch several decades ago has championed international diplomatic and trade relations for decades. I still remember an organization called the World Trade Association of Utah, who celebrated its 50th anniversary last year. They were very instrumental in helping create an international business development office at that time. I think the president of this organization is here, Mr. Vasilis Karpos, if you just could stand, please. And we also have the vice president here, Ms. Megan Stetler. So thank you. And I still remember, thank you, Megan. And I still remember them coming, at the time, coming to the legislature and said, please help us, we want to internationalize Utah's economy. Across my time serving 6 governors and lieutenant governors, each has welcomed heads of state, ambassadors, consuls general, consuls, and other dignitaries from around the world. They have truly been instrumental in building bridges for educational, cultural, and economic opportunities for Utahns. They have also traveled to many countries in attendance today. Some real beautiful countries, oh my goodness. And I have been in many of those. It has been my privilege to help organize over 50 trade missions and business trips, and I have seen the hard work, countless hours, the sacrifices they and their families have made to foster long-standing diplomatic relations that help Utah companies and those wishing to invest. I remember working with then Lieutenant Governor Spencer J. Cox to welcome dozens of dignitaries to Utah. Across his many years of leadership, Utah continues to make significant strides in achieving a primary goal, having one of the best economies in the United States, and focusing on technology, life sciences, energy, tourism, and other areas. I am grateful for his global leadership and dedication to inclusion at home and abroad. So it is now my pleasure to introduce to you now Governor Spencer J. Cox. Governor Spencer J. Cox was born and raised in Fairview, a town of 1,247 residents, located about 2 hours south of Salt Lake City, and I think it's about 1 hour from here. He first met Abby Palmer at age 16, and the couple married after his service as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Mexico. He graduated from Snow College, Utah State University, and Washington and Lee University School of Law. Governor Cox launched his legal career clerking for U.S. District Judge Ted Stewart and began building a successful law practice at the Salt Lake City firm of Fabian and Clendenin. He then returned to Fairview to join the family business Centracom as vice president and general counsel. As 6th generation Utahn, some of the first pioneers when they came here are some of his ancestors. Governor Cox served as city councilman, mayor, county commissioner, and member of the Utah House before being appointed to serve as Utah's lieutenant governor in 2013. Since his election as governor, in November of 2020, Governor Cox led out on some of the state's most daunting challenges, including the current coronavirus crisis, homelessness, suicide prevention, and bullying. Under his leadership, Utah has re-emerged as the best economy in the nation, with unprecedented funding for education and increased support for Utah's rural communities. Among the first governors to welcome refugees from Afghanistan, Governor Cox is a staunch advocate for civility in politics and is committed to improving the opportunities for all Utahns. Governor Cox and First Lady Abby Cox are the proud parents of 4 children, Gavin, Caleb, Adam, and Emma Kate. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Spencer J. Cox, the 18th governor of the great state of Utah.
Thank you, Franz, for that very kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an honor to be with you here today. I want to especially welcome our 38 diplomats from 26 different countries. This is indeed the largest diplomatic gathering since the 2002 Winter Olympics in our state, and a very big deal. We're so excited to have all of you here. As Franz mentioned, I had the opportunity to serve as lieutenant governor in the state of Utah for 7.5 years. And in Utah, we are one of the few states where the lieutenant governor also serves as secretary of state. And so I had an opportunity to meet with over 100 delegations during my time there. I do need to give a special shout out to my lieutenant governor, who is not here with us today, Deidre Henderson. Some of you have had an opportunity to meet with her, and I especially want to recognize the Honorable Hillel Newman, who is with us from Israel. Thank you. And I do that because my lieutenant governor is in Israel right now, and she's being very well taken care of. And so I hope we're taking as good of care of you as you are of her. So thank you so much. I mentioned the 2002 Winter Olympics. That was a real turning point for the state of Utah. Most people had never heard of Utah, couldn't find it on a map. I remember when I was living in Mexico for 2 years, people would say, "Where are you from?" And I would say, I'm just going to take this off here. They would say, "Where are you from?" And I would say, "I'm from the state of Utah." And they would say, "What part of California is that?" And so I learned that I had to really explain where Utah is and what Utah is. And since the 2002 Winter Olympics, we don't have that problem quite as much anymore. We are certainly well recognized, but so many things changed because of that. Inviting the world here helped us to open our arms to the world. And certainly our economy started to change, and more people discovered Utah. And they started coming here. They came here to vacation. Many of them came here to ski, and I hope you're here long enough. We had 6 inches of new powder yesterday. I hear it's amazing, so get out of the meetings as soon as you can and go and hit the slopes. They came to ski, and then they discovered, wow, there's another part of Utah where you don't ski at all. It's desert, and it's beautiful. And they found our 5 national parks, and they started visiting Zion and Arches and Bryce, and they thought, this is incredible. And then they said, wow, there's something else about Utah. And I'll tell you about that in just 1 second, because as lieutenant governors, I got to host so many of you. I met our friends from Luxembourg today, and shortly after becoming lieutenant governor, the Crown Prince of Luxembourg came to Utah. And I got to meet with him. It was a very exciting day. My daughter, who was 7 at the time, asked me which Disney movie the Crown Prince was in. And I had to explain to her that it was a different Crown Prince than the ones that she had seen in those Disney movies. But he asked a very important question when he was here. I remember it distinctly. We were talking about, as I'm supposed to do, telling you about how great our economy and it is, and how important economic relationships were, and they are. And he looked at me after I had given my presentation, and he said, "Why Utah?" And I was a little taken aback. I thought, why Utah? What do you mean, why Utah? He said, well, I get this. He had studied here in the United States. He understood New York and Washington, D.C., understood Los Angeles and Seattle, but Utah was unfamiliar to him. And so I had to ask myself that question, why Utah? Obviously, the natural beauty that I mentioned, I think, is part of why Utah, but it's certainly more than that. And I gave him an answer. I don't even remember what I said at that time. But someone else gave me a better answer to why Utah. They're not here today, but we've had an opportunity to host the Consul General of Vietnam several times here in Utah. He was here just a few weeks ago. But on one of his trips here, he said, there's something different about Utah. He said, we can talk about trade and economics, and that's one of the reasons we're here today, and it's very important. He said, but if it's just about trade, if it's just about money, then it won't last. It has to be about the heart. It has to be about the people. And I believe, and he thought, and that would be my answer to the Crown Prince if he were here today, that Utah is special because of her people. And because her people care deeply about the world around us. There is, of course, a push, and this is true in many of our countries, to close things down and to forget about the world and just focus on us. And as has already been mentioned, I don't think that that's possible anymore. We are a global society, and I think that is mostly a good thing. Certainly there are some drawbacks, there are no questions. But because of the way Utah was settled, we mentioned that in 1847, my ancestors, my great-great-great-grandparents, had their homes burned to the ground. And they were religious refugees who came here to a place that not very many people wanted to be. People kept going around here to get to California and to get to other places. And they came here and they stayed here. And out of this place that was mostly nothing, they came together and they built lives and they built futures and they built this beautiful state that we have here today that is so welcoming. And I think that legacy, I know that legacy continues on today. It is why when many states in the United States in 2015 and 16 said, we are not going to take any more refugees and no refugees from Syria, that the state of Utah, my predecessor, Governor Herbert, said, no, we are a state that cares about people regardless of their religion. We welcome Muslims here, we welcome Syrian refugees here, and there is a place for them. It is why I was one of the first governors to write President Biden and say, as in August of last year, when the United States military was pulling out of Afghanistan, to say we want Afghan refugees here in our state. And now over 900 of them in 2 months have come to our state. A tremendous load where people have had to step up very quickly and find homes and find work opportunities for those Afghan refugees. It's why we are desperately hoping that very soon the U.S. government will open its arms and allow refugees from Ukraine to come here. We know that Romania and others, Poland, the Czech Republic, so many are being inundated now with millions of refugees, and we want to do our part here. So I think the Why Utah is about our people and our openness. Now, as was mentioned, we do speak more second languages per capita than any state in the nation, which is also important. And as people have come here, they've discovered that people speak every language imaginable here, and they feel welcome. It feels like home to them, and we certainly hope that it feels like home to you. Now, because of that, we have been able to build the best economy in the country, and people are a little surprised to learn that the number one state for job creation, the number one state for GDP growth over the last 10 years is the state of Utah. In fact, right now there are only 8 states in the United States that have more jobs than they had before the pandemic started. And of those 8 states, Utah is number 1, over 4% job growth from before the pandemic started, not coming out of the pandemic. And that has been noticed. We have one of the largest tech sectors, the fastest growing tech sectors in the country, with what we affectionately refer to as Silicon Slopes. Here, competing a little bit with Silicon Valley. We like our ski resorts, and so those slopes are very important to our economy as well. But all of these things have led to an opportunity now where we have over 50,000 jobs that are created because of the imports and exports that are happening every day, where more and more companies are deciding to locate their headquarters here as Utah becomes the crossroads of the world. And your participation here today is a really big deal. We are so grateful that you take time out of your busy schedules to come here to the state of Utah to recognize what is happening here and to create those relationships that will help our state, our nation, and your countries continue to grow and to prosper. So on behalf of the 3.3 million people of the great state of Utah, we welcome you here. We hope it feels like home, and we hope you will return often. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Amazing governor in Utah. Thank you for welcoming me also. My name is Felipe. I'm communications officer with the United Nations Department of Global Communications, and I think that this feels like home. I mean, so many diplomats from so many different countries. Feels like New York for me. I'm based there. Feels like the United Nations. Maybe the UN should be headquartered in Utah, not in New York. Better now? Okay, sorry for that. Not used to this. Why Utah? That is the question we were asked when in 2019 we brought the first United Nations conference outside of New York City in the United States of America. And people said, Utah, what have you lost there that you need to go and find it? Why? And I think the governor has explained this perfectly. It is a unique place. It is a welcoming place, an international place by nature. It is a place where service is at the core of the people. And we saw that. We brought almost 6,000 people from 141 countries and over 2,000 organizations to this civil society conference. It was the second largest international conference gathering in Utah after the Olympics. This is the diplomatic gathering. I think Utah is a perfect place for everything. And I'm biased. I attended BYU Idaho. I'm a graduate of BYU Idaho and spent a lot of time in Utah. So this feels home for many reasons. But I think that if anything, I have to thank Dr. Lago and UVU for this initiative, for bringing the international community, for bringing the diplomatic community together. It is forward-thinking. It is very current. It is very important. It is crucial that we talk. We live in very complicated times. We are getting out of a pandemic. We are witnessing a war in Eastern Europe of Russia against Ukraine. We have seen 10 million people displaced in Ukraine alone. We have 60 million people displaced in the world plus by now because of different catastrophes, climate, refugees for the first time in history. We have different conflicts that seem not to have an end. And of course, all the eyes are on the UN and saying, and what is the UN doing? Is it even worth it to have a UN? I hear a lot of criticism towards the organization that I represent. I love the UN because it has a specific mission: peace, security, human rights, and development in the world. And for the past 76 years, we've been trying to redefine the concept of peace. Peace is much more than just not being in conflict. It's quality of life. It's access to resources, access to energy, shelter. But at times like this, people say, yeah, but what about Ukraine? Or what about Yemen? Or what about? And not an excuse. But people must understand what the UN is and is not. We are a tool. We are an instrument in the hands of 193 member states. We will be as useless or as useful as the member states allow us to be. And that's why me addressing you is very important for me. Because I hope that you share with me the values of the United Nations of peace and security, of building communities, of people, of leaving no one behind. I know that you service your countries and with dignity and honor, and we hope that you do that knowing that what you do matters, and that we at the UN welcome your colleagues, those ambassadors to the UN, permanent representatives. They're doing fantastic work, and we believe that people are good by nature, and we try to do good together. So why Utah? Because Utah is a place where people care about other people. Many other places too. But my experience has been tremendous. I talk about the conference we had in 2019. The position that we are in right now with UVU, we have a strong partnership between the United Nations and UVU. In fact, it is the strongest academic supporter we have globally. For the United Nations. And this has led to an upcoming conference in October. We will have the first international academic conference on the Sustainable Development Goals. This plan that the UN crafted in 2015, moving towards 2030, we'll be talking academically. We'll bring people from civil society and from different corners of the world. And why, again, in Utah? Because we think that it is a way to also show people that the UN is not that scary monster, that we are not that one world order, and I hear all kinds of things. We were created in 1945 to prevent something like the Second World War, like Third World War. We are working tirelessly on it. We definitely need your help for that to happen. You cannot imagine, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm gonna speak personally, not as a UN official. It is extremely frustrating sometimes to see the shortcomings in our work because we are not allowed to do what we are potentially capable of, because we are not given the chance to do it. And we rely heavily on people. Excellencies, let me tell you a secret. I always tell all groups, particularly youth, but the United Nations needs you much more than you need the United Nations. The United Nations, there's like 50,000 of us working for the organization globally. There's almost 8 billion people on this planet we need to service. The math does not add up, so we're in trouble if we are thinking that the UN can fix all the problems. We rely on you and your willingness to do it, and you're doing it. Keep working with us. Keep fighting with us peacefully. Keep advocating for those that need it. All communities across the globe, everywhere, you are fundamental. You as diplomats, your colleagues, your citizens will benefit from this. We have a plan of action at the United Nations. We have a new agenda. It's called our common agenda, the plan of action until 2050. We have long-term goals. And one of the principles of that agenda that our Secretary General Antonio Guterres said was, people are at the center of the work that we do. Service has to be at the center of the work that we do. And it is imperative that we leave no one behind, not just by word, but really by deed, that we are in the business of making people happy. Sounds cheesy. But I believe that as a man of faith, I believe that my faith tradition, and I'm LDS, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, my faith promises me eternal happiness. Okay, I think that at the UN, my job is to make sure that that happiness is sustainable for as many people as possible, so that they have the resources today to be able to achieve their goals, to achieve their dreams, that they can become whoever they want to become without having to worry about the resources, that they can become contributors to society, that they can thrive, that they don't have to face conflicts like the one in Ukraine. As I said, we're coming out of a pandemic. We have learned that we have slowed down. In fact, poverty has increased in the millions for people. And we are concerned because we have seen solidarity in many ways and also lack of solidarity in many other ways. We are struggling to be able to convince and explain to people why, unless everyone on this planet is vaccinated against COVID-19, this pandemic will not go away. Unless the vaccine is everywhere, the pandemic is going nowhere. And that is the reality we are facing. We have an initiative called COVAX, for which we are extremely thankful. For example, to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they donated $20 million to UNICEF for the COVAX initiative to bring vaccines to regions in the world, economies in transition, and developing nations that don't have the means, so that everyone can have access to that. We have seen the divide. We have seen the separation between the wealthy and the not so blessed or lucky or wealthy or victims of systems. And we have seen how that is impacting economies also. So it's in the best economic interest to have people thriving, whatever they are. But also we have a war right now in our hands, and it's a scary time. My Undersecretary General, Melissa Fleming, she used to work as a spokesperson for the High Commissioner for Refugees. And before that, she was working for the International Atomic Energy Agency of the United Nations. I was at an event with her last week, and she gave us some scary information. The communication, I work for Global Communications, but the communication that existed between the United Nations and the Chernobyl nuclear plant was discontinued. No access to the cameras, the data, the reporting of the officer that we had worked with were accessible. We are blind. We don't know what's going on. And that is only one of the many scary situations we are facing right now. How do you work in the dark? How do you work when you don't have information, when you don't have the data to be able to make decisions, informed decisions? The UN in the 21st century, in 2022, is a very different organization than it was in 1945. We have evolved. We have become a better and more fine-tuned instrument. We have our shortcomings. We're not perfect, but we're trying to do our best. But I believe that the three pillars of the United Nations in this new century are education, communication, and diplomacy. Education is fundamental. This is an education institution, and we partnered with them for this reason. Communication, we need to inform people. People need to have information to base their decisions on. And diplomacy, quality diplomacy, that is you. That is what you represent. We need you. I cannot stress this enough. And I hope that you understand that you have in the United Nations an ally, one that hopefully will be able to service the international community and bring about the best change. As I said, Utah is unique. I want to thank the governor for also his vision, his commitment, and his support for all the work that UVU is doing globally also, but also to Franz Kopp, of course, a good friend and an amazing diplomat also. Let's work on this together. This is about humanity. This is not about political parties. This is not about countries. This is not about allies and foes. And this is about ensuring that we all can thrive, that we all can find happiness, that we all can work together, and that we all can truly become the very best by working, knowing that we are brothers keepers. And that is the vision that we hope we can share with the global community. Thank you for all your service. Thank you for everything you do. And let's hope and pray and work so that we can solve these current issues globally. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure to be with you here today in person. It's just so lovely to see so many familiar faces and friends in the audience, and then also to be in the presence of such distinguished guests here today. That's just another aspect of the beautiful Why Utah statement that we've been talking about all morning. So it's a distinct honor to be up here. I want to extend a warm thank you to Baldemar Alago here at Utah Valley University for inviting me here to speak this morning. And then I just want to recognize what a distinct honor it is to be up here with such distinguished leaders here in the state of Utah. I am Shelby Dyack. I'm the director of the U.S. Commercial Service office here in Utah. The U.S. Commercial Service is a federal agency headquartered in Washington, D.C., and is known as the export promotion arm of the U.S. Department of Commerce. Exports are a key ingredient to economic recovery and building back better. Increasing exports leads to growth for individual businesses and growth for the American economy as a whole. The Commercial Service is unique in its exposure to the needs and concerns of U.S. businesses, the U.S. business community. Through our agency's 100 offices in the domestic USA and over 70 offices worldwide, we reach U.S. business owners where they are, in turn helping them reach markets all across the world. We are uniquely positioned to help the nation build back better because we are deeply rooted in the very communities that will be at the forefront of our economic recovery. Through our offices around the world, we help companies achieve international business success through business matchmaking opportunities, company vetting, due diligence, market research, commercial advocacy, and commercial diplomacy. Our work is unique in that we are able to cater our services specifically to the needs of the company. We have a host of international matchmaking services to help companies find the right partner in markets across the globe, as well as services to help companies grow their international presence. Each day, our work is different, depending on the types of issues that come through our door. Locally, we assist companies in finding the right business partners all over the world, whether that be through in-person matchmaking, research, or as we all know, through the last couple of years through virtual platforms. We help companies conduct due diligence on potential international partners to ensure they are viable business entities and will be reputable business partners in their markets. We work with companies to find and gather appropriate market research through our on-the-ground experts worldwide. This research aims to help companies assess their options in determining the best export expansion or entry strategies. We support and assist companies facing trade barriers across the globe when their products are stuck in customs or being assessed inappropriate taxes. We work with an incredible team also in Washington, D.C., to advocate on behalf of U.S. companies bidding on foreign government procurement opportunities. Each day, we counsel companies on anything and everything from the Export Administration Regulations, as we all most commonly know as EAR, to determining harmonized code classifications, market entry strategies, market research, business matchmaking, and IPR, any kind of issues that come up that could be a thorn in the side for companies. We're here to help. Our goal ultimately is to help American workers and businesses compete at home and abroad while empowering entrepreneurs to innovate and grow. We work with startup companies, large multinational companies, and every size company in between, providing they meet our U.S. eligibility requirements and that they have current domestic sales. Our focus, however, is on the small to medium-sized business, the businesses that need our outreach and services the most. Our Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, most recently set a goal for our larger administration to double the amount of small to medium-sized businesses we assist this year, or in this term, with a very specific focus on minority and women-owned businesses. I'd be more than happy to speak with you during the networking breaks on ways we can help your company achieve international success through all of the locally available Utah resources that we have here in the state. We want to drive economic resiliency and recovery by harnessing global opportunities for U.S. companies. Your success internationally only makes us stronger and our economy stronger. Here in Utah, we cover a vast array of industry sectors, from aircraft to education and pretty much everything in between. We are very fortunate as a state to have a strong international trade ecosystem with incredible partners who work together to ensure Utah companies meet and exceed their international business aspirations. Once again, this reverts back to that why Utah, why here? It's the local relationships. It's the relationships here that we have to make sure that you're successful. Such cooperation is made possible through our strong relationships and seamless collaboration with local entities, such as the World Trade Center of Utah, the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, the Small Business Administration, the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food, and many others. Our state is one of a kind, and that's an understatement for sure. We boast a no wrong door policy, where all of our agencies strive to assist Utah companies in finding their best path to international success that is uniquely catered to their own needs and goals. In fact, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome Aaron Starks, the CRO and Managing Director of the Global Business Services Center, of Global Business Services at the World Trade Center of Utah, to follow my remarks today. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to meeting many of you this afternoon.
Shelby, thank you so much. And Baldomero-Lago, thank you, UVU. What a great partnership we have. We're grateful for your continued work in the state and grateful to all of you who are facing jet lag at this time, but you're here. And we're grateful to host so many of you each year at this conference. You know, 12 years ago, I received this journal from a dear friend, and the title of it, or I should say on the cover, is written, "A Grateful Heart is a Beginning of Greatness." Throughout the past 12 years since receiving this journal, I've taken moments of my life to write down things that I'm grateful for. And today, standing before so many of you wonderful diplomats, representatives of impressive economies, financial markets, and countries, I'm grateful for this moment. And I hope that you enjoy your stay here in the great state of Utah. 8 years ago, I found myself en route to Japan. I was flying back from Salt Lake City, where my former company was headquartered, to be with my family, who I left in Tokyo. I arrived late into Haneda Airport. My Japanese friends will know very well Haneda Airport. I called a taxi and made my way to our apartment just outside of Tokyo in Kawasaki City. A trip I had made dozens of times, only this time was a bit different. As I made my way through the city, I could see on every light pole a Japanese flag flying right by an American flag. All throughout the city, this pattern continued block by block as we continued forward. I asked the driver, I said, what is the occasion for both flags flying at this time of night and throughout the week? And he replied simply, Ryokoku wa ichi sarete masu. Our countries are unified. And I thought, wow, this is very interesting for a country that 75 years ago was at war against the United States and participating in World War II. Less than a generation later, it's hard to imagine a world where the United States and Japan aren't strategic allies and friends. How could that be? Diplomacy. Diplomacy has made all of this possible. Diplomacy is what brings us together today as friends, as families, as brothers and sisters. Diplomacy allows us to see the bigger picture. It always has. Diplomacy requires many skills, one of which is helping the other side get what it wants, while simultaneously us doing the same, and both parties walking away feeling good about the results. It's not easy. We all have our own priorities, goals, and objectives, but foremost among all of them should be kindness and empathy. We must practice the ability to be kind and empathetic. I would say that in the world we live in today, there's an empathy crisis. The inability to understand how other people feel. The inability to take time and ask questions and learn about other cultures, races, ethnicities, etc. Perhaps if we understood how other people felt and where they were coming from, there would be less war. This morning I read about the following in our world. Here are some headlines that I thought were interesting. 1, almost 4 million refugees have evacuated the Ukraine as of today. 2, President Joe Biden to speak with Xi Jinping about the situation in Ukraine. 3, Indian and Japanese leaders to meet in New Delhi to discuss the war in Ukraine. 4, Iran intends to continue enriching uranium and use for various purposes, including medicinal purposes. 187 wounded in the latest Sudan anti-coup protest. Finally, in Togo, an announcement about Google extending its internet cable to Africa this month. We celebrate with the people of Africa for this achievement. The world is an amazing place, full of innovation and commotion and change. Let me tell you about a place full of all the good with very little of the bad. That's the great state of Utah. About 2 hours north of here, you'll find a small rural town called Huntsville, Utah. And in Huntsville, Utah is a small blue home about 1,600 square feet where myself, my 4 brothers, and my 2 parents were raised. We had many wonderful memories in spite of having 1 bathroom. I don't know how my mom did it. As I've traveled much of the world over my career, almost 50 countries, one of the things that I've learned from the cultures that I've been with is to take pride in my own culture, take pride in my own country, to be proud of where I come from. In the United States right now, there's a huge lack of patriotism. That's something us Americans can learn from each of your cultures and each of the people that you represent, to be proud of our roots, to love where we come from. One of the great things about being in Asia all those years was, for example, being in Indonesia. If you speak with the Indonesian people, they will tell you about how great their country is. They'll tell you about their families, their parents, their companies. They love where they come from. And I can say as a Utahn, I love where I come from. This is the place to be. We want your companies. We want your business relationships. We want your people to come. We want the strategic alliance that we can form here to endure for years to come, because Utah is the crossroads of the world. And our mission as an organization is to make Utah the crossroads of the world, and you are proof that that is happening. I represent World Trade Center Utah. We are the state's trade promotion authority. 15 years we've been representing companies here and working with many of you, many of which we've been able to host in our office as recent as the past 18 months, and we thank you for your partnership. Our goal is to accelerate growth for Utah companies through our networks, programs, and services. Last year, we helped generate over $100 million in new trade and investment opportunities, sales opportunities for small and mid-sized companies. We love being a mid-market state. There are 301,000 small businesses in the great state of Utah. That's a staggering number. We lead the nation in SBA lending. That means we're hungry, we're innovative, and we're scrappy. Our companies want to go abroad. They want to be where you come from. And it is our sincere desire that happens. So friends, on behalf of the great state of Utah, and in accordance with our great governor, I welcome you and hope that you enjoy your stay. Thank you.
I'm going to make this a little taller. Thank you to each of you for being here today. My name is James Burton, and I am the president of the Utah Consular Corps here in Utah, and also the honorary consul for Germany, and have been in that role since 2014. I especially thank Governor Cox. It's very easy for you to see what a great ambassador Governor Cox is for Utah. As a homegrown Utah boy who now leads our state, we're very proud to call him our governor. We're also grateful to be here at Utah Valley and thank Dr. Lago and Dr. Vaught and the others who have put on this wonderful conference. The Utah Consular Corps was founded in 2001 and is a collection of career and honorary consuls that represent the citizens of the world that live in our great state. We're grateful to serve them and for our affiliations with our different countries. Today, though, we're particularly grateful for you women and men who have traveled to our state that represent your countries throughout the world, that you would take time to come and visit us here. You are literal bridge builders, building bridges and relations and connections throughout the world, and we're grateful that your bridge today brought you to Orem, Utah. Grateful for the things that you do and the peace that you bring throughout the world. I was appreciative of the fact that the focus of this conference is on the COVID pandemic and especially on Ukraine. I joined Baldomero in recognizing my good friend Jonathan Freeman and the people of the country that he represents, and extend my support and my hope that this conflict will be short-lived and something that will pass quickly. We learn from Dr. Martin Luther King that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And Abraham Lincoln famously said that if you want to test a man's character, give him power. As has been spoken of by others, I'm horrified by the events occurring as we sit here today, thousands of miles away in Ukraine. Despite being far away from here, there are many in Utah that are deeply impacted by what is occurring in Ukraine. To their friends, to their colleagues, to their neighbors that are there, I join in the condemnation of Russia's actions and invasions, and I thank each of you for your country's support in bringing an end to this conflict and support to the Ukrainian people. We would also be remiss if today we did not pay a special honor to those who are defending freedom, both in Ukraine and throughout the world. For those men and women who serve in the armed forces of any country on behalf of the cause of freedom, we pray for their success and certainly for their safety. It was the American General Douglas MacArthur who said, "The soldier, above all else, all others, prays for peace. For it is the soldier who must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war." So we pray for those that defend us and freedom throughout the world. In 1985, President Ronald Reagan presented Mother Teresa with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in the Rose Garden in Washington, D.C. Among many other compliments paid by President Reagan to Mother Teresa, President Reagan said that some people, referring specifically to Mother Teresa, some people, some very few people, are in the truest sense citizens of the world. I've thought often, what does it mean to be a citizen of the world? All of us, each one of us here today, are citizens of some country, whether that be the country in which we were born or the country to where we have moved. Our citizenship is either a function of our birthright or a function of an acquired right. However, being a citizen of the world goes much deeper. Indeed, being a citizen of the world is not defined by the boundaries on a map, particularly because these boundaries that are drawn on a map too often serve to divide us rather than to unite us. To become true citizens of the world, we must first obtain and then maintain an abiding respect for all people, regardless of where they come from, what their beliefs are, what their backgrounds are, or any differences that they may have from us. In fact, those differences are what makes the world a wonderful place in which to live. And we must speak up, and we're required to stand up when we see any person being marginalized, discriminated, or mistreated. In fact, it was Albert Einstein who once said that the world is a dangerous place, not because of the people who are in it that are evil, but because those who do not do anything about it. So today, I thank each of you individually for what you are doing to be this proverbial citizen of the world spoken of by President Reagan. I thank you specifically, you diplomats and dignitaries, for seeking, as was mentioned, diplomacy, by being cooperative and peaceful in attacking and addressing the solutions to the problems of the world. And I thank you for your commitment to the greater good, where each of us, all of us, particularly those who cannot stand up for themselves, that their interests are looked after. So again, on behalf of the Utah Consular Corps, I welcome you to Utah, and I thank you for your meaningful participation in today's conference. Thank you.